Hey guys, so today we're going to do Piaget's study into conservation of number. Now for your course, you're going to need to know both the theory and the study that Piaget came up with. We've done the theory already, it's in the top corner if you need to watch that. Otherwise, we're going to get on with the study today. And to make sure you're following along and getting the right information down, I've created a free worksheet. So give that a download, print it out if you can. It's free and you can even use it for any study in psychology. The other thing that's free is liking the video and subscribing to the channel. The spec is on the screen now. You can see the bit highlighted is the bit we're going to go over today, and let's get straight into the study. And so all you really need to know about the background is that Piaget created an experiment in 1952, which was there to try and support his theory. I've done a full in-depth video on the theory, which you can find in the top corner. And the main link to the study is that Piaget said that children can only conserve at the concrete operational stage. That means they can only conserve once they've got to the third stage of cognitive development. The study simply aims to prove that right. Now, what even is conservation, I hear you ask? Well, conservation simply means that you're able to understand that just because something changes in physical appearance, that the properties might not change. That might sound a bit confusing, but once I give you a couple of examples, it will make sense. And this is something that children in the pre-operational stage are not able to do, but they can do once they get into the concrete operational stage, according to Piaget. Now, let me give you an example of this. You don't need to know it for your course, but it will help you understand what conservation means. If I had two crackers in front of me and I gave a 4-year-old child one cracker before asking them, is this fair? They'd probably say no. However, if I then split their cracker in half, they'd probably say yes because there's 2 of each cracker. However, you and I and anyone above the age of probably about 7 or 8 years old would be able to say that it's still unfair because they are able to conserve. Just because the one cracker has turned into 2 does not mean that it's an equal amount to my 2 crackers. Now, if Piaget's theory is correct, then anyone under the age of about 7 years old, which would put them in the pre-operational stage, wouldn't be able to do this. That's because they're not able to conserve. Anyone over that age should be able to do this if his theory is correct. And that's exactly what Piaget tried to test with his conservation of number. It's slightly different, but let me show you what that looks like. Before we look at the study's procedure itself, let's look at some of the research methods of the study. Piaget's hypothesis would be that children in the concrete operational stage would be able to conserve, but children in the pre-operational stage would not. Now, the independent variable is the age of the children, and the dependent variable is whether they can conserve or not. And now that we know what the independent variable is, we should be able to work out that it's an independent measures design because all children only took part in one condition. Now, the sample, which is the group of children that he used, is actually just a small group of children from a Swiss school. You don't need to know an exact number. However, you do need to know that it included some of Piaget's own children, and we can already think about maybe some problems with that when it comes to evaluating the study. Now, the actual procedure of the study itself is really simple. Piaget took each child to be tested individually. He laid out 2 rows of counters in front of them and asked them which row has more counters. Once they answered, 1 row of quarters was spread out, and they would be asked the exact same question again, which row has more counters? The answer to this question would show whether they were able to conserve or not. Now, the findings were just as simple too. Children in that pre-operational stage wouldn't really be able to get this right, especially in the early stages. Towards the end, they might be able to get it right and tell us that actually they both had the same amount of counters regardless, but they couldn't really explain it. It's only once children got into that concrete operational stage that they were able to confidently tell us that both rows had the same amount of counters and why. Therefore, we can conclude that this actually supports his hypothesis, it supports his theory, and it shows that we develop through stages because we can only conserve at a certain age. Now, just like all other studies that we cover, Piaget's study also has criticisms. The main criticism being that Piaget could confuse the children by asking the same question twice. He asked how many has more counters, then he moved them, and then he asked the same question again, which might make the children feel like they need to change their answer the second time round. And then we have a couple of standard criticisms that we can apply to quite a few studies across the course as well. For example, low population validity. This simply means that the sample used was really small and it wasn't very representative of lots of different groups. In this case, it was just a small group of children from Switzerland. Okay, so for the exam zone today, I've got a couple of really big 5 markers to show you. These should be easy pickings now that you've gone through everything in this video. The answers are going to go on the screen now, and as you can see, they're focused around making sure you know 2 or 3 key parts of the study as well as the criticisms. Otherwise, if you want to test yourself, I've put a QR code for a Blooket on the screen now. Give that a scan, play some solo games and try and get a high score. I'm going to have tons of videos on this channel for anything OCR GCSE Psychology, so I'll see you guys in the next video that you decide to check out.